Welcome to Lock It Down Sports. I'm your host, Locke Hoover, and you can follow me on X at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You can also check us out at E5280 Sports. That's E5280 Sports. And today on Lock It Down Sports, how is this restaurant a recruiting sign for this college program? What Deion Sanders wants to do for a spring game, a gamble this university is taking, and where the Braves roster currently stands. And that's where I want to start today, as it's pretty been a telltale sign with the roster cuts and the roster moves that the Braves have made, where they're going really up to this point. As a catching breakdown, it's pretty simple. You got Chadwick Trump going to be your backup catcher, and then Drake Baldwin is in line to really start, as they've released Kurt Casale. They've sent Sandy Leones to AAA, and that's it. They haven't made any big league moves. So Drake Baldwin's going to be your starting catcher, top prospect, can really hit. They like what they've seen from him at the AAA level last year, like what they see from spring training. Pitchers are giving him good reviews, and he's played a lot, which makes sense to see if he's ready and if he's a fit for what actually catching and defending and throwing and all that and game calling. Because, as you know, Chris Sale doesn't shake off the catcher. So he's got to be comfortable with Drake Baldwin putting down the sign and saying, all right, here it comes. Here comes the slider. Here comes the heat. That's it. So you got to feel comfortable with that. And sounds like there's been glowing reviews. Now, they have signed James McCann to a minor league deal, which I like. It gives the Braves some catching depth down in AAA with Sandy Leone now down there, James McCann down there in AAA. And really, it's one of two things. McCann can come up and be your backup catcher behind Sean Murphy when he's back, or maybe it's Drake Baldwin a little bit longer. Or he's just there for depth, just like Sandy Leone was. So there's a lot of, it's always good. Veteran big leaguer. He hadn't even started spring training. This is basically when the Braves signed him, his first start of spring training, actually hitting all that. So he's going straight to minor league camp. So, it's a good signing. I don't think there's any harm in it. Add catching depth. Their Braves have had catching depth issues in the past, just based on injuries, and we're already starting out with one with Sean Murphy. So nothing but a depth signing. If he makes a big leagues, cool. If not, all right, well, he was there just in case. So good all around signing, and that's where the catching situation stands. Bullpen has cleared out a lot now after the moves that they've made, and some were kind of surprising. As I'm surprised the Braves released Jake Diekman. Odd to me, considering they love the depth, and you would think they would have kept him at least in case of an injury in the minors, or maybe he's got an opt-out. I don't know if he's got an opt-out in his contract. He very well might, since he's a vet. I don't know, because since he's on a minor league deal. But yeah, he was potentially the third lefty for the Braves on their roster, to start in the bullpen, or he was that lefty in the minors. So he's out since they released him, which that really surprised me a great deal. They traded Angel Perdomo, who was battling for a roster spot. He was out of options as well. Got him from the Pirates last year, or 2 years ago, was coming from Tommy John. The Braves kept him, released him, but then re-signed him to a deal to see if he can make the bullpen. Another big lefty, high strikeout rate in 23 with the Pirates in his 40 innings or whatever it was. But at least they got something for him if he wasn't going to make the roster. Trade him to the Angels for cash or a player to be named later. So it's like you get something for him. It's like, all right, if he wasn't going to make your roster, sure. But once again, another lefty, big guy, can throw, you think harder. He's building back up his fastball velocity. So he's out of the picture now. Buck Farmer to the minor league camp. I think we'll see him at some point in the big leagues. Signed another one of those, another non-roster minor league free agent deals. They're pretty well last year for Cincinnati. They're okay this year. I think he'll be in the big leagues at some point for the Braves this year, depending on his contract. I don't know if he's got an opt-out as well, but I expect to see him at some point in the pen for the Braves. Anderson Pilar, Rule 5 pick for the Braves by the coming over from the Marlins. Did not make the club, so they returned him. Had to pay the Marlins back half for them to take him back if they wanted him, and it looks like they took him back. So he's out of the picture. So where does that leave us? It's pretty cleared out now after the moves, the releases, the opt-outs, the send-backs. We're looking at Hector Neris, another non-roster, De Los Santos, and Desbal Hernandez. Pretty much locked up their spots. We still got Ian Anderson and AJ Smith-Solver, who haven't announced anything with that, but based on how it's lined up, it looks like AJ Smith-Solver is the fifth starter right now in this Braves rotation. Do they go with a 6-man rotation to start the year? Maybe, since they play 7 straight games. Then after that, do you send down Desbal Hernandez or do you send down AJ Smith-Solver and keep Ian Anderson as your 5th starter? Or is Ian Anderson then going to be the long man in the pen and you keep AJ Smith-Solver as your 5th starter? Desbal Hernandez has got options, so that's a blessing and a curse for him. So that's kind of and Ian Anderson's out of options. So if you send him down, he's got to go through waivers. You might lose him. And you don't want to because he's got years of control left in him. So as far as contract goes. So there's still that little situation there that I think could maybe play out during maybe the first 2 weeks of the season, really, to see where they're at and to reassess the current situation with Desbal, with AJ Smith-Solver, with Ian Anderson, because Grant Holmes got the 4th spot locked up. He's got the 4th spot locked up, and I think I mentioned in this other podcast, he could eventually move to the pen because of how well he pitched last year, and he's being that more versatile guy, and depending on the situation in the pen, how's Hector Neris throwing? How's De Los Santos throwing? How's Desbal Hernandez throwing? Do they want to keep him in the big leagues? Or they option him out? Because he's got options. AJ Smith-Solver's got options as well. Smith-Solver's close. He's really close. Is this the year he busts on the scenes? That'd be great. Big start, big plus for the Braves if that happens in the rotation. Because this stuff's dynamite. Absolutely dynamite. It's just control, just harnessing it. Remember, he's only 22. It's you forget that. He's only 22. So still a lot of time to develop. And then I love this signing to a minor league deal, Craig Kimbrell. And I think he's going to be in the big league pen when he's ready. He just signed, so I don't think he's not even going to the major league side. He's going straight to the minor league side to get work in. I could see maybe he's gets a game or two at the end. We're getting to the end of spring training, I know. Maybe to the end of spring training, he gets a game maybe, just to see where he's at before he continues to build up on the minor league side. I mean, I think it's a low risk, high reward, good reward type situation for Craig Kimbrell. Overall, his numbers are bad overall, but if you look a little bit deeper into his numbers, because I saw the 5+ ERA. I go, oh, yikes. Because I know he got released last year at the end of the year with the Orioles. So I was like, 5+ ERA, that ain't good. You look into it, he had a few bad appearances in late August and September, which got him released. And if he's good mid-April through August, you take that. I mean, that 6th, 7th inning roll, sometimes the 8th inning roll. I mean, my goodness, as a middle reliever, Kimbrell's not even one of your main guys. And if he can still put up the high strikeout rates that he did last year and has his entire career, the high whiff rate, you love to see that. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? He's in AAA in case you need him. But if he doesn't throw good in AAA, he's stayed in AAA. It's not oh no, I can't believe we're bringing back Craig Kimbrell type thing. I don't think it hurts to see if he's got another year left in the arm. I also think Alex Anthopoulos is going to be on the lookout to see who gets released, let go at the end of spring training from these other teams. Or could go sign Dave Robertson. Because I could very well see another move by the Braves, easily opting Desmond Hernandez down as your option guy. Sign a guy, maybe that third lefty out of the pen, because right now you got Dylan Lee and Aaron Bummer. I've seen Hector Neris has got reverse splits, so he could be fine getting the other as that third lefty, but also with righties as well. So it's kind of on the lookout for what the Braves are going to do with the pen, which is obviously the big the big thing. Now, I love this. I absolutely love this. What a program like Colorado and Deion Sanders want to do. And he's come out and said this. He would like to play another university for a spring game. And Fran Brown, the Syracuse head coach, raises his hand, pick me, y'all. I'm ready. And I think this is a great fit for some programs. And others have gone the other way, which I don't like, of canceling spring games. And here's why I think they've canceled spring games or modified spring games. That's first is the second transfer portal window. Guys on their own teams have an idea of where they stand on the depth chart. They'll hop in that portal and they're gone. If you change the transfer portal window, I think spring games are going to come back. But when it comes to spring game opponents, I think it works for some programs. Works perfectly for a Colorado and Syracuse. Absolutely. I think it might work for programs like Purdue, a Boston College, a Mississippi State, those type programs having those types of matchups. Maybe it's a Mississippi State Purdue, a Northwestern Boston College, if obviously they're not playing each other in the regular season. A Colorado Syracuse, non-conference, they're not playing each other in the regular season. Maybe they play each other in a bowl game, maybe. Why not? I mean, it gives teams a true NFL type preseason game. And I think for the college football calendar, it extends it, which is the also important, the battle with the NFL of extending the NFL calendar, because we're always talking about the NFL preseason, or excuse me, OT. going back to OTAs, then the preseason, obviously the regular season, the playoffs, then you got the combine, then you got free agency, then you got the draft, 12 month of the year thing. I mean, I think it could extend the calendar a little bit more for the college football season, shall I say. So there's some positives with that. Obviously there's a lot of downsides as well. What's your player injury? Because you're competing against another team, not just your own team, obviously. Because I got to beat that guy. I got to beat that corner. I got to beat that defensive tackle. You know, I got to beat that defensive end if I'm on the line. You know, that sort of thing. Yeah, you want to beat them on your own team as well, but it's just different. So then spring practice is also about evaluation and looking at players and seeing where you're at, not just your first string, your second, your third string, to see where your depth chart lies. Playing in this game, how would you divide it up? I feel like you'd have to divide up one offense versus two defense, vice versa for each team. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I don't know. Or do you do it ones versus ones for a series, two versus twos, three versus threes, etc., which I think might be the best way to go. Year one, Purdue's ones versus Mississippi State's ones for the first series. Mississippi State's twos versus, Purdue's, etc. On down might be a better layout. Obviously, be great for TV. Spring games used to be on TV for a little bit, and then they've gone to ESPN Plus, SEC Network Plus, streaming services, etc. But a TV game would, I think, ESPN, a Fox, a CBS, ESPN2s, FS1, etc. I think they would jump at the idea, which would bring more money to your program, right? Because you get that TV deal for that spring game, right? Maybe it's a one-off, or you go back to the drawing board and renegotiate your TV deal if you have these spring games within your conferences, right? Okay, here's $1 million. SEC gets 500,000. Big Ten gets 500,000 because it's Mississippi State, Purdue. I think that's the other bust. But I think another, downside would be these programs put real film on tape for your opponent those first two games, because you really don't have anything going to that first two games. You don't have a spring game for them to really look film, especially with all these modified spring games and changing spring games and all that. And with your vanilla offenses, you don't give you a real feel, But actual games, yeah, you still might get some vanilla film with play calls and defenses and all that, but it's still some film and some tape for some teams. Now, that's that conversation. Then there's the other conversation of teams in serious contention for a national title every year. I don't think that it's a good matchup. So, obviously that's the Georgias, the Ohio States, the Oregons, Clemson, kind of ish in the conversation. Sure, maybe they play a Mercer, Youngstown State, a FCS opponent, maybe. But I feel like programs like that, they would get more evaluations and a better evaluation playing one versus ones or two versus ones, vice versa, on their own team, because even their backups are better than the FCS schools, right? Talent from, their starters, right? And FCS, they need to build some of their depth as well to see how their twos and their threes look. These type programs, your Oregons, your Floridas, your Georgias, maybe these programs play a Tulane, a UTEP, a Kent State little bit, higher level than your Youngstown State, your Mercer, those sort of schools. But I think the injury risk is still high, brings in a high level there, higher level injury. Because once again, you're not going against the same defensive back you've been battling for 2 weeks. It's a different opponent. But the position battle evaluation isn't there. So I don't think that works either. So once again, I think it's very much, it depends on who you are as a program and where you are as a program with your school. If you're in the national title contending business, you're not playing another school. If you're in the Colorado, Mississippi State, Boston College, Syracuse realm, yeah, it fits you to be in the let's have a spring game. And maybe, you know what? Maybe that money goes straight to the school and it doesn't get split up into it doesn't go to the conference. It doesn't get divvied up conference. If a TV deal gives Boston College, Mississippi State $500,000 to play on TV for their spring game, it goes to those two schools. Some of that risk reward factor. And I'm fine with that too. But there's just a lot of different elements depending on who you are and where your program is at. Now, speaking of programs and where they're at, Notre Dame, UNLV is in an interesting spot. It's only fitting that only Las Vegas is going to gamble. Only Las Vegas is going to gamble. That's exactly what they've done with Dan Mullen as, he's your new head coach. And what I mean by gambling, they can only pay 2 years of his 5-year, $17.5 million contract. He got enough money for only 2 years of that deal. Very fitting that UNLV in Las Vegas would do that. And obviously it's a big gamble. But I think they're banking on a few things. One is UNLV getting in the group of 5 playoff. Because then it really gets them a lot of money. And it raises their overall persona and outlook as a school of, oh, you're one of those sneaky G5 schools that might get in the postseason to get a bid. So that's I think one thing they're gambling on, as they've had recent success last 2 years with Barry Odom. Dan Mullen is going to be able to continue that success and us be a contender and hopefully get in the playoffs is one of the thoughts. Them staying in the Mountain West, got a lot of money to stay in the Mountain West. I think another thing that might be gambling on is the hopes of him continued success. And after those 2 years, he's gone. He's at another university, a bigger school coaching. So once again, 2 years they're gone. And then they get some of that money that another school is going to have to pay them for the services of Dan Mullen. So I think that's another thing they're gambling on as well. They're going to plan on raising football tickets and prices, which will help with the salary. But does the raise in ticket prices bring the same number of fans? If it does, then yeah. If not, that's a wait and see. That's the risk reward, the cost factor of it all. And this is really to me, like the price of college football, especially for these type programs who are, what? We can be that group of 5 school. We can make the playoffs. That would just up our level of school prominence as a whole, of who we are as a school, as a program, having that college football playoff bid, that moniker, that We did it, and guess what, guys? As a recruiting pitch, we can do it again. Come to UNLV, you can be in the playoffs. Yes, you're that overlooked kid. Come to UNLV and show them why you got overlooked, right? And I think there's also just even tiers when it comes to the group of 5 schools. You know, you got your upper schools. You got the Boise State who made it last year. You've got UNLV, Tulane, Memphis. Even Liberty's got a lot of money. Those upper echelon tier schools are even at just different levels. I think for UNLV, it's worth it for them to make this hire. We've got 2 years. Hopefully, he can make the playoffs in his first 2 years. It's all worth it to be one of the primo G5 schools of your unit. We're UNLV. Transfer who had to sit 2 years at Ohio State. Come to UNLV, you'll get to play. You know, that sort of pitch when it comes to the transfer portal. Now, speaking of recruits, I absolutely love this. How a Troy State University head basketball coach is dictating his recruits. You know what he wants? He wants tough, hard-nosed, blue-collar kind of players. How does he know that, though, right? Because everyone says, "Oh yeah, we are. I'm tough-nosed, blue-collar, hard-working. I am. Oh, absolutely, coach." How does he know that? A restaurant. Locke, a restaurant? Yeah, that's right, a restaurant. And you know what restaurant I'm talking about? It's yellow. You see it on every exit. It might be the only restaurant there. That's right, the Waffle House. The Waffle House is a tell-all. There's been stories in the article, very funny. He's with a player and a recruit, and they're talking about, hey, where do you want to go eat? Do you like Waffle House? The player goes, heck no. Guess what? He didn't sign with Troy State. Transfer student. He was in on a recruiting visit. Troy head coach didn't say anything. And the player pointed it out. Oh, coach, I got a Waffle House. Can we eat there tomorrow? Lo and behold, he was a signee for Troy. Now, I wonder if he takes it even a step farther and asks them what they're going to get. Because if you eat at Waffle House, if you go to Waffle House, you already know your order pretty much when you walk in. Yeah, there's maybe some different variations, but that's usually me. I'm usually get one of 3 things. And I can tell you right now, it's the All-Star is one of my go-tos. Crispy hash browns, usually bacon, sometimes sausage, scrambled eggs, sometimes cheese, sometimes not, cinnamon raisin toast, apple butter. Easy. Sometimes I'll get the Philly cheesesteak, depending on if it's a lunch or a dinner. I'll get usually the Philly cheesesteak sometimes, and then I'll get the bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich with crispy hash browns. That's usually my order when I go to Waffle House. Usually it's one of those 3 things. Usually doesn't change. That's usually 3 things. If you know, you know, right? And I would love for him to have tested that and told them of, all right, so what order do you get at the Waffle House? Also, I failed to mention, enjoy March Madness. Hopefully you picked a winner. You win your bracket. You win a lot of cash. Maybe some bragging rights. Who knows? Enjoy college football. Enjoy that too. But enjoy March Madness for this next basically month. Your bracket. Hopefully your bracket isn't busted on day 1. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Lock It Up Media. That's Lock It Up Media on X. You've been listening to Lock It Down Sports. I'm Locke Hoover. Talk to you next week on E5280 Sports.